The New York Giants are 6-2 at the halfway point. Today we talk about how they got there and what they need to do to stay there. And some viewer mailbag. Stay tuned. What's up, Giants fans? Thank you for tuning into another episode of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. Very special episode today. We're going to get into the first half of the season, how the Giants got to 6-2. We're going to go through some games where they started to develop their tendencies and their characteristics that got them to that record, what they need to do to keep pace, and we're going to do some viewer mailbag questions, special mid-season episode. Before we get on, though, please like, subscribe, turn notifications on to Tommy's Takes. Please do the same for Giants Country over on Twitter, YouTube. Check out the team over there. Articles, interviews, podcasts, you name it. The second half is about to heat up, and we're going to heat up right along with it. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The New York Football Giants are 6-2 at the break. The surprise story of this young NFL season. Let's recap how they got there and what they need to do to continue their success, as well as some viewer mailbag questions towards the end. First off, we'll go right to week one. Giants started their improbable run with a win over the Titans, a game nobody thought they could win. First game would show a peek of the ingredients that would lead this team to 6 wins out of 8 games. First off, before anything, the resurgence of Saquon Barkley. Started right off the bat, 16 carries, 164 yards, go-ahead 2-point conversion with 106 left to go in the fourth quarter. And when you play with skill, good luck will happen. Randy Bullock shanked a 47-yard field goal as time expired, giving the Giants their first win of the season, what would be the first of 5 fourth-quarter comeback victories. And the Giants defense, while a little bit light on the talent side, showed in that first game what they're going to be able to do. And that's opportunistic, make stops when it most counts. Daniel Jones did struggle in the first game, had the brutal pick in the red zone, but had the moment with Brian Daboll on the sideline where Daboll went up to him and was like, hey, that's not going to cut it over here. And that might have been a turning point moment for the fourth-year quarterback. Either way, Giants come out 1-0 on the road, big victory. And right away after that first game, you could feel something different. This team had started 0-2 for 5 years straight. And right away, they're 1-0 off the bat with a brand new coaching staff, brand new GM, a retooled offensive line, rookies playing significant snaps. So right away, you knew this was a different Giants team. Home opener was against the 0-1 Carolina Panthers. Rather uneventful game. Did start with a bang as the Giants forced back-to-back turnovers on the opening kickoff. I was there for that one. It was very, very loud at MetLife. And the turnover on the Panthers' first possession. Unfortunately, the offense would struggle for the majority of the afternoon, leaning on the defense to get some timely stops. Graham Gano 4 for 4 on field goals. Giants won 19-16. Unfortunately, still without Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari. They would also lose Leonard Williams in this game to a knee injury, which would turn out to be 4 games missed. And you'll start to see the theme here with injuries as we go along. This would also be the second and last appearance for Kadarius Toney before he was traded. Troubled wideout would leave that game with a hamstring injury and be traded to KC later in the season. Next up was primetime, and you know how the Giants have fared on primetime. It hasn't been pretty. 1-1 Cowboys on the slate, Giants 2-0. Unfortunately, New York struggles continued. It was a close game. Dallas would lead only 6-3 at halftime. The defense did what they could to keep the Giants in it. Giants defense would allow 178 yards on 26 carries. This was kind of the start of where you started to see the Achilles heel of the New York Giants, and that was their run defense. Their run defense has been exploited all year long. Really started in this Cowboys game with Pollard. Pollard found some cracks. Even Ezekiel Elliott, who had been struggling for a while, was able to find a few cracks. Offensively, the Giants struggled. Daniel Jones under constant duress. 5 sacks. The Giants actually took a brief lead on a beautiful weaving 36-yard touchdown by Saquon Barkley. Giants were up 13-6. Unfortunately, Cowboys would not relent. They scored late in the game. Giants had a chance to make a run. Interception on a pass to David Sills where he fell down. This would also be a game where you would start to see the double-headed rushing attack of the New York Giants, and that's carried this offense. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but the passing offense has struggled. But that double-headed rushing attack of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley have carried this offense, and you've seen it in that Dallas game. You would have Daniel Jones rush for 79 yards on a 9.8 yards per carry. Barkley finished at almost 6 yards per carry. Giants sadly would also lose Sterling Shepard late in the game to a torn ACL, hurting an already thin receiving core. Really was an unfortunate injury. I believe it was the last passing attempt of the game, just running along the sidelines, non-contact injury, and there goes his ACL. Tough for Sterling Shepard. He's had a ton of injuries, but that would wrap up a loss to Dallas. That would put the New York Giants at 2-1. But they would stay at home to face the Bears. And it was a 3-game home stretch for the Giants. They would win 20-12. Their successful offensive strategy of bootlegs, play actions, and RPOs gave the Bears absolute fits. Daniel Jones rushed for 68 yards on only 6 carries, added 2 touchdowns. Barkley would continue his dominant performance with 146 yards on a whopping 31 carries. This game also featured an interesting sequence. And to me, this game and this sequence I'm going to talk about really personified this coaching staff and this team this season. The next man up mentality, the no matter who gets injured, we have to step up mentality. And you've seen it full display in this game. Late in the game, I believe it was late in the third quarter, Jones hurts his ankle. He's pulled from the game. Backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor comes in, lasts a drive and a half. He goes out with a concussion. But what happens? Next man up. They put Barkley in the Wildcat. This was also the game you start to see the Wildcat being used by Mike Kafka. Barkley comes in on the Wildcat. They score. They put together a scoring drive. Jones comes back in on that drive as a decoy. He really wouldn't miss much time. He'd come back the next week. Giants scored 3 on that drive with Barkley at quarterback and Jones decoying. And that showed you a little bit of the heart and characteristics of this team. The defense held the Bears in check all afternoon. 4 field goals. But again, Giants unfortunately would lose Aaron Robinson and Kenny Golladay during the game. New York's 3-1 record was their best start in 11 seasons. So you're starting to see as these games go along here how this Giants team progressed, moved forward. Guys went down, guys propped up, guys did their job, and that's what this team has been. And with their 6 victories in 8 games, it's been heart, soul, determination. They're far from the most talented team. They are a very well-coached team. Shout out to Brian Dable, Wink Martindale, and Mike Kafka. Very well-coached team. The team just has a ton of heart, and they showed it again in the next week, traveling across the pond to London to play perennial playoff team in Green Bay. Former MVP Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't matter. The Packers were 3-1, Giants were 3-1, and yet another fourth quarter comeback spurred on by Saquon Barkley. And this game would also feature a remarkable Daniel Jones performance and the start of a hot streak for the fourth-year quarterback. Giants scored 17 unanswered points in the second half of that game, and Jones, hampered by a bad ankle, would engineer a 15-play, 91-yard drive without Saquon Barkley, who hurt his shoulder on the first play of that drive. It was really a remarkable drive by Daniel Jones, and this is where he kind of started to show the guts and the gumption to make it happen, and he hasn't had the most gaudiest stats. He hasn't blown up with 300-yard games, but watching that Green Bay game, you could look at him as the quarterback and say, hey, not only can we win with this guy, but we kind of won because of him. And that drive was a big part of that. Obviously can't say enough about Saquon Barkley. Last play of the game, Rodgers goes for the Hail Mary. Giants fans all know what happens with Rodgers and Hail Marys against the Giants from 2016, even though the Giants got one on Green Bay in 2011. Shout out Hakeem Nicks. But Giants would win the game. 4-1 start, their best start since they won 5-0 in 2009. Also matching their win total from the entire 2021 season. So you want to talk about progress, right? Within the first 5 games, they matched their win total of the entire previous season. That's progress. Next 2 games would feature pretty much more of the same formula for the G-Men. Powerful rushing attack, mistake-free quarterback play, and opportunistic defense. They had wins over Baltimore and Green Bay. Giants were 6-1. 5 fourth quarter comebacks under their belt. doing so on the backs of the 2018 and 2019 first-round picks Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They did have a tough loss to a surging Seattle team on the road, which would leave the G-Men 6-2 at the break, but a ton of positives for this team. And when you want to really look into it, let's start with the resurgence of Saquon Barkley. The fifth-year pro has showed when he's healthy, he could be one of the best players in this league, and he is. He's absolutely dynamic. Currently, he is at 968 all-purpose yards, 779 rushing yards. I mean, remarkable. He's literally ranked second in every ranking for running backs, and he has just been tremendous when they need big plays. And the remarkable thing about Barkley this season, as opposed to previous seasons, and this is a testament to the coaching staff also, is when the running game doesn't work in the first half, coaching staff doesn't give up on it, and Saquon doesn't give up on it. And that's what needs to happen. If you want to have a dominant rushing attack, you have to wear a team down, and you have to continue running that ball into the second half. You cannot just run, hey, it's not working in the first half, we're going to come out and throw it every play in the second half. Doesn't work that way. And he's had big runs. His pass blocking has improved. That was a big bone of contention for Barkley. Can he pass block? Is he a liability with pass blocking? Well, he showed that he could pass block. Receiving, obviously, he could receive, and he could come out of the backfield, wheel routes, go into the slot in motion. He could do a multitude of things. And most importantly, let's be honest, he's been Daniel Jones' best friend out on the field. Jones is having, I would say, his career year. Definitely in regards to not making mistakes, being a leader out there for this team, and having Saquon Barkley is a huge part of that. And let's talk about Daniel Jones. Fourth-year quarterback coming into the season, facing intense scrutiny, has had a very good season so far, showing all the tools that made him the number 6 overall pick. And while Jones' numbers may not be gaudy, nowhere near the top of the league leaders, he's made plays when the teams needed him to make plays. He's played hurt. He's played tough. And he really has done everything this coaching staff has asked of him. Only 2 intercepts in 8 games, which is remarkable. But the passing game has struggled. Let's be honest, for long stretches of games. Giants passing attack is ranked 28th in the NFL. They have been hit with the injury bug. Receiving core, offensive line. I know a lot of people don't want to hear any reasons, excuses for Jones in year 4, but it's realistic. When you go into an NFL game missing 3 of your top 5 receivers, missing a guard, a tackle, you get affected. Look at the Seattle game, for instance. This offense, and listen, first of all, the offense hasn't looked great for the majority of the year. They've had some spots, but they looked completely different against Seattle. Out of sync, didn't look right, couldn't run the ball. Jones struggled, even though he didn't turn it over again, which was awesome. But they struggled. They couldn't get anything going in the passing game. Rushing attack wasn't working. And who were they missing? Right tackle Evan Neal, left guard Ben Bredesen, and tight end Daniel Bellinger. And Bellinger, who's had a terrific rookie season so far, has been Jones' security blanket, let's be honest. So you hope that some of these guys could get back for Daniel Jones so he can make a little bit of a move here. He's got 9 games left to secure himself a contract with this team. And Giants didn't trade for a wide receiver, didn't get help for Daniel Jones. Whether that was the right thing, wrong thing, Joe Shane said the value just simply was not there. Don't shop hungry. That was his saying, and I agree. And it's going to be tough because Jones is going to have to try it out there with no Kadarius Toney. He's gone now. He's in Kansas City. You don't know what's going to happen with Kenny Golladay. Supposedly he might be back for Houston. Not 100% sure. Let's put it this way. If Daniel Jones gets a contract in this offseason, he will have earned it, without a doubt. And since we're talking about injuries, and it seems like a reoccurring theme for this Giants team, once again, towards the top of the league with games missed from their starters. New York is currently second in games missed by their players. Injury bug has struck early and often, especially at the wide receiver position, where the Giants have gotten only 3 games out of Kenny Golladay, 2 games out of now departed Kadarius Toney, and 3 games out of Sterling Shepard, who's lost for the year. And those were their 3 starters. So really brutal. The coaching staff has done a brilliant job of maneuvering. Shout out to Joe Shane picking up pieces to plug in. He's done an amazing job. Marcus Johnson, Jalen Smith, Fabian Moreau, now Landon Collins. Let's see if he can make an impact. And that's when you have a GM and a head coach in lockstep. The head coach says, hey, this is what I need for the system. The GM says, here you go. That's what is different about this Giants team this season. And it's been working, but injuries have been really tough. You have players playing significant snaps that would typically be backups for other teams. A lot of rookies playing snaps out there. So we'll see how that goes. You got Evan Neal coming back hopefully in a couple weeks. Not sure about Bellinger. Galladay should be back, if not for Houston, then for Detroit. But definitely need some players back, because when you have a thin roster and you have a team that is decimated salary cap wise, Joe Shane talked about at the bye, we might have to kick the can down the road here for some more money. It costs when you elevate players from the practice squad. Everything costs money in the NFL, so something to keep an eye on. But overall, I would give the Giants an A+ through the first 8 games. Let me tell you why. No one expected them to be anywhere near where they're at. That, coupled with the injuries, it's remarkable what this team has accomplished. Quality victories over perennial playoff teams in Green Bay, Baltimore, and Tennessee. Showing toughness, resiliency with 5 fourth-quarter comebacks. And Joe Shane, again, salute to him, bringing in the right pieces. He retooled the offensive line in the offseason. Made several key pickups during the season so far due to injuries. Still a lot of questions to be answered down the stretch. Several players on the last year of their deal. No wide receiver help on the way. Mountain injuries. But all in all, the Giants did much more than anybody could have thought they would have done. I mean, even after the first couple wins, fans were like, all right, this is not too bad. Then all of a sudden you look up and they're 6-1. Tough loss to Seattle, but 6-2, you will take that. Question is, what do the Giants need to do in the second half to continue that success? They have a fairly favorable schedule. They do have a tough divisional streak, we'll call it, to go on. They have 4 straight divisional games. Listen, it's simple. They just got to win. I'm just kidding. When I think about this Giants team, they're ranked 28th in the NFL in passing yardage, ranked towards the bottom of the league in plus 20-yard passes, plus 40-yard passes with 9 and 2 respectively. No question this has been a large part to injuries at the wide receiver position, development of a retooled offensive line, but also there have been games where Daniel Jones doesn't pull the trigger. Receivers are open. You've seen it in the first couple of games of the season. Kind of dissipated, during the winning streak, the 4-game winning streak. You've seen a couple plays in Seattle where that happened. I fully expect Mike Kafka to pull the reins off this thing going down the stretch here for the Giants. Needs to happen for Jones. They need to see if he's the guy, if they want to invest $30+ million in him. Let him go out there. Let him air it out. Let him attack the defense and see what happens, because you've seen versus Seattle, there's only so much Saquon could do. And, Jones needs to make it happen. And he has 9 games left to prove he's that type of quarterback. And let's just be honest, it's up in the air. The Giants have talked about, you hearing some whispers about them possibly working on a deal for Barkley. Not so much for Daniel Jones. So that's still up in the air. Involve Barkley early and often. You've seen this Giants team a couple times this season get away from their winning formula. And there's an age-old adage, dance with who brung you. Do what works for you as a team. Of course, you want to work against the opponent's weaknesses, but do what works for you. In Seattle, didn't seem like they were really in sync. Seems like the game plan was a little cutesy. We're going to try to pass it whenever we can. No. Give the ball to 26. Let everybody stay out of his way, and Jones is going to have to hit the passes when he needs to. In their 2 losses, it seems like they abandoned the run and they got away from it, which is ridiculous. Barkley's currently second in the league with 20+ yard runs with 6, and second with 40+ yard runs. He has 2. Also has 5 touchdowns. Defensively, a little bit of an issue for the Giants here. It's been an interesting year defensively. It comes down to stopping the run. New York has struggled to stop the run mightily, ranked 31st in yards per carry given up against the rush at 5.5. And I'll be honest, it's been mostly inconsistent linebacker play. It hasn't been good, whether it's Jalen Smith, whether it's Tate Crowder. They're missing assignments. They're using wrong shoulder leverage. They're trying to dip around blocks instead of taking them on when they have a free tackler there, picking the wrong gaps. You name it, you've pretty much seen it on full display. And the Giants are also getting ran on the outside. So, a lot had to do with the injuries initially to Kayvon Thibodeau, Aziz Ojolari. Aziz came back. He's back out. He's been out. So hopefully the Giants can get him back and help against that run game because it has not been pretty. Hopefully Landon Collins can lend a hand there. That would be nice for the Giants' rush defense because they will need it. Teams are going to attack that coming down the stretch here, especially if the Giants dare get into the playoffs, which looks like they have a good opportunity to. Teams are going to attack that run defense. So they got to be prepared. And the best thing they could do, utilize their players to their best ability. Get Landon Collins in there. Nothing wrong with him being in there. It can't be a lot worse than what you've already had in there. Take Crowder, Jalen Smith, just not doing what they're supposed to do. It's going to take a team effort. You have Dexter Lawrence having a career year. He's been awesome against the run. Leonard Williams also. You have help on the edge with Jahad Ward, O'Shane Zimenez. Hopefully he'll be back. Linebackers need to step up, plain and simple. And all the exciting and positive energy for the Giants. I look forward to what happens in the second half. So, before we get to the mailbag, super excited, super pumped to see what happens with this Giants team. I'm going to tell you why. Teams that play with house money, so to speak, are usually the less pressurized teams. Teams that don't play with a lot of pressure can go out there and let it loose. And that's what you've seen this team do. If the Giants can stay healthy down the stretch, get a few players back, I think they're going to make some noise. And listen, yes, it's a rebuild year. Yes, it's house money right now. But who cares? There's been Giants teams coming into seasons where this team looks good. This team could be a favorite. And they didn't even sniff the playoffs. So for those fans out there saying it's house money, who cares? We don't need to trade. That's fine. And that's not wrong. But enjoy this. You never know what happens if a team catches magic. You got two players in Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones on contract years fighting for their NFL Giant lives. This is going to be exciting down the stretch. So I look for the Giants on offense, throw the ball more, get the ball down plus 20 yards, plus 40-yard passes, use Saquon early, often. Don't get away from the run. Continue that. Defensively, I look for them to improve against the run. That has to happen. If they don't improve against the run, this season's not going to have a great ending because even though it's a passing league, and I've said this on the show before, you can't even begin to stop the pass if you can't stop the run. So that's something to look forward to. But all in all, awesome first half for the Giants. I'm sure the coaching staff, I'm sure Joe Shane, I know John Mara is happy. You've seen him in Jacksonville pumping his fist, screaming. See what happens in the second half. Now, time for the moment we all been waiting for. Viewer mailbag. Going to go to some questions here. We got some good ones. It was tough picking some of these questions. Let's see what our first one is. First one is Allie. What do the Giants do with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones at the end of the season? Very good question. And I don't have the answer, obviously. This is what I think. I think the Giants will try to negotiate a contract with Saquon. Probably 3 years. Money-wise, I'm not going to put a number on it yet. And I think, if I'm correct, he will accept the deal. If he doesn't accept the deal, it's going to hurt Daniel Jones because if Barkley accepts the deal, I think they franchise tag Daniel Jones unless he has a remarkable, run here in these 9 games. I think they'll try to franchise tag him and say, hey, either we've seen a lot from you, we want to see a little more, or that was great, just want to see you do it again. Here's 32 plus million. So I think Jones is going to depend a lot on Barkley. I see it that way. If Barkley says, no, I don't want this deal, I'll play on the tag. I think that puts a little bit of pressure on the Giants with Jones because you can't obviously tag 2 players. You can't franchise and transition tag each player. It's going to be one or the other. So I think they're going to try to get a deal with Barkley. I think that's the most likely aspect. They even you hear whispers about it during the bye week. And why not? Barkley's a strong character guy. He's been drafted by the Giants. He's homegrown. He's shown this year he could be dominant, game-changing. I think Daniel Jones has a little more to show. So I hope that was a proper answer for you, Allie. Next, we're going to go to... excuse me. Next, we're going to go to Okay, my man RJ. Shout out to RJ, faithful viewer of the show, subscriber. Appreciate you, RJ. He wants to know, will Nick Gates push for a starting spot at some point this year? Great question. So you've seen Nick Gates already getting some reps, jumbo packages. He was mixing it up last week in Seattle. I think the team will play it safe with him. Down these next 9 games. No reason to push it. If he does push somebody, it's probably going to be Feliciano. Feliciano has struggled. 56 PFF grade, allowed 2 sacks, has 2 penalties. Also, Ben Bredesen, he's also 56 PFF grade. He struggled. Glowinski will keep his spot at right guard. So if Gates does start over someone, it's going to be Feliciano, which honestly, I think a lot of Giants fans would embrace. But also, don't be surprised if they continue to take it slow with Gates. Jumbo package reps, spelling some offensive linemen that get tired, get injured, what might have you. Just that he is back, Nick Gates, is such an amazing feat for him and his team. I know the team is inspired by that, and you could see right away him mixing it up, him getting dirty down there. So excited for him to be back. We'll see if he gets a spot starting later in the season. Thank you, RJ. All right. Next question is from Brandon. This is a good one. Which wide receiver currently in the NFL would I like to see on the Giants offense? So, free agent market is a little bit bare for wide receivers next year, let's be honest. So I'm going to go with DJ Moore, someone that was talked about at the trade deadline. I think DJ Moore would be a great fit in this offense. Good speed, good size, great hands, playmaking ability. Just has to keep his helmet on. Keep your helmet on, DJ, please. I think that's somebody that would fit good in this offense. Hope that was a good answer for you, Brandon. Thank you for being a fan of the show, subscribing. Shout out to you. Next question is from another faithful follower, Mark. Mark, I always see you commenting. I know you're a subscriber. Truly appreciate you, brother. Mark asked, this is a great question. What was the best Giants season, in my opinion, and what was the worst? I'll do some recency bias. So I think the best Giants season was 2007. The reason why I picked 2007 was there was still tons of questions about Eli Manning, tons of questions about Coach Tom Coughlin, where this team was going. If after 3 years it was time to break it up, they go on the magical Road Warriors run, win the championship, defeat the then undefeated New England Patriots. To me, that was the best Giants season. And the worst? The season right after, 2008. Giants prime position to repeat, 11-1 start, everything lining up, Eli Manning playing at an elite level, and Plaxico Burress goes out to a nightclub on a Saturday night, shoots himself in the leg. And Plaxico Burress, everyone knows, was a critical part of this Giants offense. That was a tough blow. Giants would end up losing to Philly in the divisional playoff, 23-11. They were never the same after Plaxico went down. So, best season for me so far for the Giants, 2007. Road Warriors surprised everybody. Worse, 2008, what could have been? They had their shot. All right. So next question, Giants Nation Brigade. Thank you again, Mark. Appreciate you, brother. Giants Nation Brigade. Do you think Tamon Fox can earn a contract here? So I think Fox has played pretty well. He's shot out of a cannon. He plays with power, force, impact. He's had a couple plays this season where it's like, where did he even come from to make that hit? Still has a 53 PFF grade. PFF is not the all-seeing eye. Does give you a little bit of a ballpark, but he's a rookie. He's an undrafted rookie. I think Tamon Fox has a future with the New York Giants. I think he'll be just fine. You could never, ever have enough pass rushers in this league, so I think he'll have a place here. As far as contract, what he gets, what it'll be, not sure yet, but I think it's safe to say Fox will be here for a while with the Giants. Thank you, Giants Nation Brigade. That was a great question. Last, final question is from Dave, Independent Outsider. Appreciate you, brother. I know you're a loyal friend, follower. You always have great questions, great engagement. This was another great question. What practice squad players now on the Giants can contribute in the second half? So, to me, that was an easy one. I'm going to go with Dre Miller, tight end out of Maine, 6'3", 224 pounds. Giants are without Daniel Bellinger for who knows, not sure. The broken eye socket, orbital, all that stuff. Not a good injury to have. Look for Dre Miller to get called up. like I said, good size, speed, hands. He's a rookie. You never know what you have at an undrafted free agent. So I think he would be the one. Thank you, Dave, again. And I want to just go through the names, just say thank you once again. I got Dave, Mark, Giants Nation Brigade, Brandon, Ali. Appreciate you guys. Great questions. Thank you for being loyal to the show, subscribing. Obviously, got a long season still ahead of us, 9 more games. Let's see how the Giants do. And remember, at the end of the day, the Giants are much further ahead than where they were supposed to be. Enjoy the ride. Stay positive. Stay healthy. And you never know where this season could go. Thank you for tuning in to Tommy's Takes. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Drop some comments. Love interacting with you guys and gals. But that's it. On to the second half. Peace.